Hey YouTube, it's Nick, and again, it has been ages since the last video that I've posted, but I'm back, and this is going to be a complete rebranding of my channel. I started off as a vlogging channel, switched over to skits, and now, years later, I'm coming back and I am going to restart this channel as a paranormal channel. I have been extremely inspired recently by quite a few YouTubers, and I want to make a little bit of a comeback. It's been so long since I've posted videos and I've had that itch again. You'll have to forgive me for my nose. I am still an essential employee in the COVID crisis right now, so I am wearing a face mask all day long, which is not dealing with my schnoz. Okay, so as I said before, I am coming back to this channel as a paranormal channel. What you can expect from me now is videos on cursed items, haunted items, locations that are ghost-filled, and just basically because I've always had an extreme interest in the paranormal, and sitting behind me right here is actually part of my haunted item collection. It spans all the way down there, and eventually I'll show you guys and go through the pictures, the backstories between some of the items, things like that, and cover those. Today, I wanted to cover a story that is related to a friend of mine. I have been thinking a lot about friends because of all of this going on, and thinking back on fun things that we used to do. I'm going to start this story off with my personal beginning portion of this, and then from there what we're going to do is we're going to go into the backstory of the item that I'm talking about. So in 2016, one of my friends was going through a very rough time in his life, and we decided that we would hang out and go out thrifting one day. And so both of us are really into unique antiques, things like that, not to mention any sort of kind of interesting items that may have a cool backstory. Unfortunately for him, he likes more of a Halloween themed type thing. To give you a little preface on, he has the pictures from the Haunted Mansion ride where when you go down, the picture expands. He has those in his house. We're out in this thrift store, and I find these 3 pictures, and they are disturbing. There are 3 pictures of crying children, and I kind of pointed them out to him and was like, who would ever want to buy something like this? And obviously he did. So he ended up buying them going home. And then he messaged me later on that night and said, look at what I got, in our group chat. And he was like, oh no. And I was like, oh God, what happened? And he messaged me and said, dude, we just bought cursed items. I said, what do you mean you bought cursed items? And that's where this story comes into play. The pictures, as I said, were of a crying boy, and I'll show you the pictures right now. There was a crying boy, another crying boy, and a crying girl. The crying boy pictures were mass-produced by an Italian artist who went by 3 separate names. The last name that I'm going to mention was one that wasn't used until pretty much after his death. He never really went by it. One is his actual name, and then the other is the name he went by as an artist. So it was Bruno Amadeo is his given name. He went by Angelo Giovanni Bragolin, and finally Francot Seville. So that's the one that he didn't really go by. He was born in 1911, and after World War II, he learned to paint in Venice, which in 1950s he started doing these crying children pictures. There's about 65 ones that can be accounted for that he's painted, but estimates go into the range of 2,000. They were very popular in the 50s, and they were sold to tourists as kind of like a tourist trap, little piece of it. Take home with you memorabilia. So the curse became really prevalent in UK and was first documented by The Sun as the blazing curse of the crying boy. So you can kind of guess where this is going. The reason for this was that after examining the smoldering remains of multiple homes, the owners had at least one print of the crying boy. And the painting survived completely unscathed. Now, there are some cases where it fell down, and when you picked it up, completely fine. No smoke, no nothing covering it. No soot. So they had at least one print in their home at the time when their house burnt down. Now, some of them had multiple prints, and all of them survived. There was documentation of at least 50 house fires where this occurred. It became so popular and so renowned, with so much infamy, that anybody that was in UK that was part of the firefighting brigade refused to own the picture, refused to be gifted the picture. If somebody tried to offer it to them, they absolutely just, nope, sorry, you can keep it. Between the 1950s and 1973 is when the 50 documented cases happened. After that time, the cases became more and more popular, up to the point that in 1985, The Sun posted a article encouraging people coming out to this Halloween event where they were going to mass burn these paintings. 2,500 paintings were thrown into a bonfire that day. Now, after that, they had multiple mini bonfires to continue burning up these paintings to get rid of them. Some people did, some people didn't, and the cases kind of dwindled down because there were less and less of these paintings around. So what does it mean? What do I have to worry about if I have one of these pictures in my house? Well, there's a couple things. There's a plethora of things that you need to worry about if you have one of the crying children's pictures in your home. So first of all, if you have the actual crying boy picture, if you have a print, or if it's an original piece, obviously the fire. And the second one is subliminal messaging. So basically they believe that there were subliminal messages painted within the picture that encouraged people to buy the picture, hang the picture, and then set their own house on fire. Many people, after a fire has been started and they've been found guilty of it, will admit, I don't even know what I was doing. I don't know why I did this. When a fire occurs with one of the paintings in the house, they're often found still intact on the remnants of the wall. So even if the building crumbles around it, most of the time they're found on the wall still. And that's good for them, because if the crying boy falls off the wall, it's an omen of death. It means that before long, somebody around you is going to die, most likely the owner. Unfortunately, there are only two ways to break the curse of having this picture. One is the less tactful way of breaking the curse by giving it to someone else. You can give away the painting and curse is absolved. There's nothing that you have to do at that point. The second way is, as I stated before, there are a lot of these pictures. If you put the crying boy and the crying girl together, put them on a wall, and you treat them kindly, they're said to bring you extremely good luck. It's said that if you put both of them up there, it eliminates the curse completely and actually makes you even luckier than you should be. So there is a plus side to it. So you're probably thinking right now, well, they had that mass bonfire in England, so why in the world would that not solve it? So it was actually put to the test. So if people burned the picture, it either didn't burn, it would reappear, or in some cases it would get a little singed, but that's about it. Now, there was a test done from somebody named Stephen Punt, and he's a comedian that decided, you know what, I'm going to put this curse to the test. I'm going to see exactly what people are talking about and see why this thing is actually fireproof. So he takes the picture and he lights it on fire. Now, there are two reasons that he states most likely it didn't catch on fire. One is that during this time they used a very hard paper backing that kind of preserved it and it was more difficult to burn. The second is that they used a fireproof varnish on top of the actual picture itself to kind of preserve it. So it's probably why it didn't burn, but again, they're trying to disprove any sort of claims about it, which honestly I encourage. I mean, if somebody's going to come up with some sort of curse or, you know, dark history behind something, I mean, it's always good to try and, you know, let the skeptics have their way. The second thing that they said is that when a fire starts, sometimes a cloth band that goes across the back to hang the picture, that would burn and the picture would fall face down on the ground and be protected because the fire would burn around it. That one seems a little less plausible to me, but, you know, it is still a possibility. Obviously, there are other people that have documented and discussed, you know, what they saw when a fire occurred with the painting. One such case said that the tears on the boy stopped the fire from spreading onto it. The next question that most of you probably have is, at least in my case, this was the next question that I posed. Who is the boy? Was it somebody that was just done in passing? Was it something that came up in the guy's imagination? Like, how did the painter know the boy? That's where the history gets a little bit more twisted and may not be true. The biggest thing to take away from this is the next portion of this was all documented and posted after the death of the artist. There was a man named George Mallory. He was a headmaster and also an occultist. And he was absolutely obsessed with the crying boy curse. So what happened at this point then was he went to interview the artist. Giovanni Bragolin, we're going to call him that because that's what he signed the pictures as, had a conversation with him. And he asked the artist, who was the boy? Like, do you have any actual, like, story about who this person was? And the artist says, yeah, I do. The boy was actually named Don Bonilla. So, the boy was actually a urchin. He was a homeless child that was roaming the streets in Madrid. And the artist took pity on him and felt bad. And against the better judgment of the priest that's in town, the Catholic priest was like, look, no, do not take this child, anybody else but this child. And the artist was like, no, I mean, he's got an interesting face, I would like this child in particular. So he takes him in and adopts him. Now the reason that nobody wanted this child, and most of Madrid called him the devil, was because the child, any time that he was taken in, the first was with his own parents, there was a devastating fire, and the person that was his caretaker did not make it out of the fire. Come to find out, the artist learns that the child is a pyromaniac. He, rather than addressing it in a conventional way, decides that the best course of action is to abuse the child. So, at this point then, he observes the child crying after hitting him and paints a picture of him crying after this happened. The child, after all of this goes down, is then blamed for the next occurrence. The studio where the painting happened was burned down, caught fire, and the whole studio burned down. Obviously, the child is going to become the subject of investigation for this one because, you know, he burnt down every other place that he lived. The artist gets so angry that he chases the boy out. Says, I no longer want anything to do with you, get out. So he chases the boy out of the house and the boy goes completely dark. Nobody hears from him, nothing. Now, that's where it gets interesting. There is no record of this boy until the mid-1970s, after all of this has happened. In the mid-1970s, a car crashes into a wall and there's a massive explosion and inferno. The person inside completely burnt to a crisp. They open up the glove compartment, and inside is a driver's license. The driver's license states Don Bonilla. So, again, this is all speculation because this happened after his death. And you can't really confirm or deny any of that information because he took all of that information to his death. And the timeline kind of doesn't match up completely. So, needless to say, my friend was very freaked out about all of this. And he still has the paintings. He has them in storage and he hasn't given them away. So he still has all three because he moved to Germany to complete his master's and is now back in the States. So I am sure that those things will come out of storage and back onto his wall as to not anger the crying boy. That was the history of the crying boy paintings. I really enjoyed doing this video, and I'd love to do more of these in the future, and I hope you guys have some ideas on things that you'd like to see. Again, I'll probably go through my ghostly haunted collection that I have. It's ever growing. As I stated in one of my prior videos, I do not like dolls anywhere in my collection, so I don't have any of those yet. Yet being the key word, because you never know what you're going to get from some of the sellers that I obtain some of these things from. We have quite a few ghosts inside of the house, and some of them are very positive. We recently had to get rid of an energy that was a very negative one. And I can go into that story later because it involves going in depth into some information that is not the happiest for me to go through. So again, I will cover that information when needed. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and I plan on doing some ghost hunting things in here. I plan on visiting some places because I am located in Pennsylvania, so there are a lot of places around here within the 5-state area around us that have haunted locations. So please feel free to leave me any comments on any stories that you'd like me to cover. If you want me to do research on anything and do another topic, just let me know. Big shout out to Loeybug as an inspiration to do this video. I messaged her on Twitter and just basically said, look, I have not done videos in a long time. You are encouraging me to get back out there, and I really appreciate it. And she actually messaged me back, surprisingly, and that's kind of part of the reason that this video is in existence now. So you can thank Loey for that. I appreciate all of you guys that have stuck with me. I know that I still have about 2,000 subscribers, but I don't know how active you guys are. If there's anybody out there, please let me know. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.